My name is Alex Buczkowski, and this is GeoawesomeTalk, show about everything geospatial, Earth observation, and drones. Before we will get to the show, I would like to introduce you to one of the projects that we've been working for the past couple of months. It's called Earth Observation Hub, and this is a searchable knowledge database where you can find high-quality content about everything Earth observation. You will find a link to your hub in the description below the video, and I really invite you to check it out. And my guest on the show today is Amir Farhand, who is the founder and CEO of Soar.Earth. Hey, Amir, how are you?
G'day, Alex. How you going? G'day, everybody. I hope everyone's well.
All good, all good. So to start off, tell us a little bit about your background and also what is Soar.Earth?
Thanks for that, Alex. Yeah, so everybody, thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been a big follower of GeoAwesomeness for such a long time, and Alex and his team, so it's a privilege to be a part of this. Look, just a bit about my background. I come from a background of earth science, geomorphology to be specific, and I've also got a lot of interest in climatology and weather systems and stuff like that. And when I left university, I went and got postgraduate degrees, and I really started getting into the research aspect of earth science, and that's where I really got into the deep guts of remote sensing and earth observation. And I actually did my honours thesis in the Chilean Shan Mountains of northern Tibet and China, and we really used a lot of DEMs and stuff like that to recreate past events. And for me, the amount of data, even back then, which was quite a while ago now, I looked at the amount of data then and I was like, there's just so much data out there. And this was a reoccurring theme throughout my career. I went and worked in one of Australia's biggest GIS consultancy firms, NGIS, for a while. I learned some incredible things there, got exposed to different projects around the world, which was a great time in my life. And then I really got the startup bug. I've always had a bit of entrepreneurialism inside me, and I got the opportunity to sort of act that out when I moved to San Francisco, spending a lot of time there. And it's very, I guess, contagious, that feeling, especially when you're in Silicon Valley. And what Soar.Earth really is and what it brings everything together, and what I've learned in the past sort of, say, 10, 12 years of my career, is really an oversupply of geospatial data. That's how it all started. So the best way I can describe Soar.Earth, even to myself right now, but other people can sort of take a meaningful approach for it themselves and then redefine it, is imagine you walk into a library. There is 1,000 books. And out of these 1,000 books, 500 of these books have got a map or a satellite image of some capacity inside them. And then you walk out of that library and then you look up and there's a drone flying over your head, or there is a satellite flying over your head. Now think of all that content, all that data. It needs to sit somewhere. Why can't all those maps, in all those journal articles, in all those atlases, in all those books inside the library, all be digitized and sit in a correctly geolocated situation as they would be versus a satellite that's flying over your head or a drone that's taking it, which is already digital? So that is the premise of what SOAR is. But really what it is we're building the new atlas of the world. We don't see ourselves as a competitor to Google Earth or anything like that, or Google Maps, but we are neatly tucked away between the people that want to use something that is better than Google Earth, it's got more accessibility, and the people that are at the very, very high end of requirements of geospatial data. So the content that we're bringing together is pretty much every single type of map or satellite image that is in context. So say, for example, it could be geological maps, topographic maps, could be a satellite image from Sentinel, it could be a satellite image of Landsat 1972 at, say, one of the glaciers of Indonesia or something like that we've got on our platform. But really all the other content that sits away in hidden silos in different parts of the world that you and I would never be able to get access to. And that access is one of the biggest problems that we're trying to solve. And Soar.Earth, we don't own anything. We're just a platform for crowdsourced, organization-sourced content that comes onto the system. And one of the funniest things about it is that when we first started this, it was really built around what the economy here in Western Australia is focused on, which is mining. And the mining companies here started using it, but really where it grew was, journalists started picking it up and environmentalists started picking it up. And then all of a sudden, it started getting a bit of buzz there. And we're looking at this going, wow, there's so much data out there that we didn't even have any idea of. So yeah, in effect, we're building the new atlas of the world and the digital atlas of the world.
So would you call it a Wikipedia for geospatial information?
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of putting it, Alex. I think it is a Wikipedia for some people, and for other people, they try to equate it to, it's like a Spotify for maps, where it's other people's content on your platform. I even had a guy the other day say to me, goes, what is this? It's like a YouTube for maps. We're like, well, it's not video, but yeah, it's content out there. And I think the opportunity, the world needs something like this. And the way I look at it, and I tell my team and we tell our investors and our stakeholders and our partners, is if we win, the world wins. And we're doing this from a perspective of articulating what the requirements are in the world of this problem and then trying to fix this problem. So we're not trying to go out there and then fix this very, very niche issues which companies such as Esri and Hexagon are trying to fix. We're trying to fix what is between Google Earth and what Esri or Hexagon is trying to achieve.
So just to understand it well, what are some of the use cases for the use of Soar.Earth platform? Well,
that's another really good question because it's multifaceted, and I know we'll probably go into it in this interview, but we've got a roadmap of additional user cases. But the first and foremost initial user case is the storage of this content online, right? So it could be an individual, an organization, a university, and you want to just upload your content for a place to show off, what you've got. So you could be an armchair geologist and you could be processing sentinel imagery in various bands and trying to get out, geological formations, for example, in the Andes, as some of our users have done. That's one example. Another example could be people uploading maps, so conflict maps of Ukraine, which is very, very topical at the moment. So this is daily topographic maps, if you will, of the conflict situation in Ukraine. There's so much content on there. I mean, when we first started this and I was looking at it, I was like, oh, wow, there's very bespoke applications. But now, I mean, there's people out there that are mapping the Sundarbans. These are the mangroves of Bangladesh right now, and then uploading maps and images from farther back as the 1950s and then overlaying it on satellite imagery. There's just so much content out there. And then that's the mapping component, but then there's the access to satellite imagery as well. So we've tried to build this system where we've got the Sentinel feed, as shout out to Gregor and his team at Sentinel Hub, that we're using their feed to allow people to simply just draw a box and collect Sentinel imagery, for people that are normal people, if you like, not high-end geospatial users that would otherwise go to Sentinel Hub. But then on the next layer of that is the simple feature of being able to access extremely high-resolution satellite imagery through some of the vendors around the world. So we've developed this ordering system, which we think is quite unique, where we've taken down that barrier of the resellership of content of high-resolution satellite imagery. So you can just go to pretty much any location in the world, draw a box, choose the satellite that you want, 50 centimeter natural color, for example, 75 centimeter natural color, something like that. And then you just put your credit card details in and bang, it just takes it and it goes into the ordering queue. There's no resellership, there's no, pre-filled forms you have to fill out. And so, yeah, it's quite easy to use. And we're getting people such as insurance companies, real estate companies, hedge funds, so financial systems using it as well. So if you wanted to get an image of, say, here in Western Australia, Port Hedland, on a specific day, you can organize for a satellite to fly over. You don't even have to really talk to us. You just put it into the system and it does the job.
So it's really about democratizing geographic information. And I mean, whatever applications can be built on the top of it, then this is, I would say, creativity of users, right?
That's correct. And we're opening that up to how good the users are. And some of the content, Alex, even it blows me away. I mean, I thought I knew this area and what people were capable of, but I mean, I consider myself as a sort of a moderate, okay, not even advanced user of Earth observation software, such as, like Hexagon and ERDAS and all these kind of things, ER Mapper, and going back a bit in Envy. But then some of the content that's coming onto our systems from these other individuals around the world, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, I'm barely an amateur compared to these people. And one of the interesting things about this is now what we're realizing is on that terminology of democratization, most of this incredibly, really, really good content is coming from people that do not speak English as a first language. So these are people in places like Africa, South America, that are putting on incredible content in other languages than other than English. And if you were looking at this from the lens of an English-speaking world, you'd never even be able to find it in the first place. And to us, that is seriously cool.
There is a purpose in it, right? So we are engaged as GeoAwesomeness in this project, Geospatial for Good, right? So this is in fact these organizations that are trying to help in emergency situations. They could actually use your platform or your backend to provide quick access to communities all around the world, just to solve the problem of providing this quick access to data. I think that it's cool. We actually need to connect you with some of these organizations if you're not connected yet.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess one of the interesting things about this is that most of your community that's listening to this or watching this interview, they would be avid supporters of products such as, OpenStreetMap and QGIS. And I think this is the narrative that we're following along as well, because on our system, you can just grab a GeoTIFF that you've created in QGIS, drag and drop it and put it onto Soar, and then you can start collaborating on it and editing on it. So we've got journalists that go on there, and some people describe it like a Reddit for maps, where the image on Twitter, that particular image of that map would just look like an image, and you can comment on it in Twitter, sure, and on Reddit, no problem at all. But what Soar now allows you to do is that you can just add in arrows, comments, you can measure tools, and it becomes a very collaborative tool set. And there's no charge for this. This is all completely for free. So what we're finding is that for very, very specific user cases, people are hopping online and then doing that as well. So we had a very, very large project. I think it was now 2 years ago. It was a very sad situation. It ended in a unfortunately in a bad way, but it was the Gulf Livestock One. It was a ship. It was a livestock ship that was going, I think, from New Zealand to China, and it sank off the coast of Japan. And these guys were getting satellite imagery, both from Sentinel and high-resolution providers. They were uploading bathymetry maps and ocean current maps and so forth. And they had a community of people from, like, on Facebook. They just put a link out and they're saying, guys, just go on here, and then let's just all start. And these people were not GIS people. That's the point here. And they just went on there and just drew an arrow. Is this potentially wreckage or something like that? And then they had a moderator that would come in, collate that content, and then take it out, put it into something like GIS or QGIS or ArcGIS or something like that, and they would disseminate it from there. So, and then once again, that's where we are. We're in that gap of that we want to fill in. And the more content that's created, the more companies or organizations such as us, platforms such as us, matter. And that is the enrichment that we want to bring to the community.
All right. But at the end, as a startup, you've got investors, you also need to make money, right? So what is the business model? What is the business model behind it?
Unfortunately, we need to make money. I mean, wouldn't that be great just to be able to do R&D like this? Look, the way we make money is we've got almost like a freemium model, really. But the way we make money is there's two ways. The first way is we make a tiny, tiny bit of money from any satellite imagery that commercial satellite partners charge on our system. So we take a very, very small cut off that, right? It's like call it a marketplace model. But that we all know, and I know a lot of people watching this will know that there is no money in selling pixels, right? It's just, you're not going to become $1 billion company by any stretch, right? As we're finding out, sadly. But what is actually happening is that a very, very small amount of people love our website so much and our platform. They contact us and say, hey, look, we want effectively what you've built, but we want it for a very, very bespoke application, and we don't want it to be public. We want it to be private. So whatever you've built, so whatever tool sets and features that you can see as a public user inside Soar. We've got a product called Soar Plus, which is currently in beta format. And we are going to be rolling that out commercially in probably the next sort of 6 months to 1 year. And yeah, those people are, these are big organizations. So organizations such as mining companies, agricultural companies, oil and gas companies, ECG. So carbon is becoming a massive issue as well. So yeah, that's how we make the money. And then we charge them on how big is, how long is a piece of string, basically, how big is their organization, how many users they have, how much data they need to store on the systems. And I think one of the things, I don't know if we're going to get to talk to today, but in our world of tech right now, there's a big issue about storage, right? So storage, because we've got petabytes of data on our system. So we've got to pay for that. But what another layer on top of that costs us money is network costs. So that's how we make our money, is to basically organize very, very bespoke versions of Soar Plus, and then we roll that out in a commercial manner.
All right. So you've touched this topic of really having petabytes of data that are available in a really snappy way. I recommend all of you to check out Soar.Earth, because it's impressive how fast and how easy it is to have access to all of this data. So how did you actually manage to achieve that? So what is in the, I'm not sure if you can share it, but in a, let's say, fairly generic way, what is in a backend?
Yeah, okay. I am not a technical person at all. I think my coding skills, my CTO would tell me, Chris Lowe would tell me that my coding skills are pretty pathetic. So I'm not going to go into too deep dive detail, but it's obviously we leverage GDAL library, which has been fantastic. But the proprietary aspect of our technology is our map tiling engine that the guys have built around that, and also the server clustering. So that allows us to not only hold large volumes of raster data on our system and our ecosystem, if you will, both privately and publicly, but also the speed of which that this is disseminated across different platforms. So we spend a lot of time in it in terms of, I mean, the map tiling engine was tested over 2 years now, and more than that actually. And we had the product open for like a closed beta, and then we went to open beta, and we were testing how big are some of these images that are being put onto the system. So we started with drones, for example, and because we thought, look, drone images are, they tend to be small in terms of size of measurements of the world, but then they're high resolution, right? And then when you compare that with Sentinel feeds, API feeds that are coming through versus incredible mosaics. So these are scanned maps, topographic maps or geological maps of somewhere in the world, and they could be at, say, pixel resolution 10 meters per pixel or 20 meters per pixel on the ground, but they're covering 500 kilometers across. So that's a lot of data, and that's where the map tiling engine that the guys have built around and the clustering has really paid dividends for us.
All right. Sounds really cool. So the last but not least question that I've got for you today is related to some of the key trends that you are seeing right now in the industry. So what is shaping the geospatial industry today?
Yeah, look, I think this is I try to be as active as I can on Twitter, and I read a lot of this stuff, and I think there's a bit of a split between what us as geospatial people think is coming next versus what customers actually want. I think there's a bit of a gap there. I'm not sure, because right now we're sitting here in 2022, but I don't know how this is going to evolve in, say, 2024. But I would say a couple of the key things is, I know SAR and the applications of synthetic aperture radar are huge, and there's some incredible companies such as Umbra, which is doing great work. And I think how this takes, we take this SAR information and then turn that into actionable insights or content that people can make easy decisions based off. I think that's going to be very, very interesting. I think the other one is, machine learning / AI and that part of it. So we look at that as really how much data is out there in the world. I mean, Soar is a perfect example, but what if you've got so much data over the same location, but in different ways and different formats and so forth? Well, how can you get insight out of that? And easy decision making out of that. And I think that AI component, I mean, we've all seen DALL-E and people making incredible artwork on DALL-E. How that's going to fit into geospatial community, I think that's going to be fantastic. And then the third one, which I think is a little bit potentially controversial, I don't know, but we've got a lot of satellites in the sky right now, and I think there's actually too many satellites. So there's a lot of Earth observation companies out there. Some are saying they want, it's great, by the way. I mean, I'm in full support of every single one of these companies. You know, there's thermal imaging from space. There's extremely high resolution imaging from space. But there's so much content out there. I think it's a question of economics. And I know there's been some incredible news pieces written and blog articles, thought pieces that are written about the applications, particularly towards agriculture. With this incredible amount of data that's out there, you've got millions and millions of dollars of hardware up in the space. And I look at this and I go, where's this really going to go? How is this going to affect drones, you know, aerial imaging companies and so forth? And I think we need new applications for geospatial data for those companies to succeed and the entire geospatial community to succeed as well. So for example, we've been looking at AR, geospatial applications towards gaming is another one as well. So, you know, really it boggles the mind where we are right now. And we're at the start, I think, something really, really special. I always tell, you know, my staff and stakeholders and partners and so forth, I always tell them, I go, look, in 2005 or whatever it was, you know, Google Earth, Google Maps was released, and we've gone, was it 15, 16, 17 years into the future. And really, the mechanism of what you see on Google Maps or Google Earth hasn't really changed that much. I think that we're now, since then, we've had these advent of satellites and different types of technology, such as, you know, 5G phones and 6Gs on the horizon and drones. Everyone's got access to a drone now. I think we're now at the start of another, what I hope to be a bit of a golden age in geospatial. And yeah, it's going to be incredible. I think the next decade is going to hold a lot of incredible stuff for us.
I think that you just drew a really great outlook for the industry. So I hope so too. And I strongly believe that we are actually in the next golden age here. Amir, thank you so much for being on the show. And I really recommend everyone to check out Soar.Earth. It's really, really awesome.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you everybody for your time.
Thanks.
Cheers.
All right.